What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today, we have a serial entrepreneur, someone who's a wealth of knowledge in the e-com D2C space. Love the mindset that he brings to situations. Cody Alt, thanks for joining the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to start, at the beginning of this journey for you. You grew up in a town of 30 people in Montana.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty crazy given the trajectory that you're on at this point and kind of what you've been able to accomplish. Do you think being from a small town gave you an advantage or a disadvantage in business? Like, thinking back to those days, what did it teach you?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, for me, it was just outside a lot, right? So, I mean, I didn't get a cell phone until I was a sophomore in high school. And it was only because my dad made me do it because he couldn't figure out, where me and my best friend Chase were at the time. We're just out in the mountains on four-wheelers or whatever. So I wouldn't even have gotten a cell phone, at the time that I did if it wasn't for him making me do it. So, I mean, growing up, I didn't really think too much of, profession or, I mean, I was always a big sports guy, right? So I thought that I was going to be a professional football player that was going to be what I did. So I believed that till I was 20. But yeah, I mean, just growing up in a small town, I mean, I think just, uh, you know, 30 people, there's nothing around. So you're outside playing, as I got older, growing up, like hunting, fishing, just kind of really being outdoors. You ain't going anywhere to get, fast food or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to drive like an hour for that to even happen. So really in the middle of nowhere, there's a little VFW bar there. That if you wanted a snack, you could get a pizza or a burger or something, but that was the only quick food that you could get. So, but I mean, like growing up, even when I was, in high school, I resold car stereo speakers to, there's like some surrounding smaller towns, right? So I was a speaker guy, and I got in trouble when I was in high school. I mean, I absolutely hated school with a passion. Got terrible grades. I kept my grades just good enough so I could play sports. And then even to keep them that good, I was cheating off of, smarter people. I was taking homework and copying it, making it a little different to pass grades. I was stealing like midterm exams from the teachers while they were at lunch. We would break into the office and I would take out the answers. And so that, I mean, I cheated my way through school as far as I did get, even in college, same thing, pay people to do assignments or, things of that nature. But when I was in high school, I I would go to the chiropractor just to get out of school basically for the day, right? And just get a doctor's note and come back to school. And then I'd go to football practice or basketball, whatever it was. And one day he kind of left his stack. He left his stack of, you know, permission slips, I guess, if you will, doctor notes. And I took the stack of them. And so I had this girl in my school just write me a bunch of them that I was at the doctor that day or whatever. And so then I would go to the Missoula, and that was the big town where I went to ended up playing college football out in college in Missoula, and I would just go there and kind of dick around all day with my cousin and some other friends that I had in that town, and I got a relationship with the manager of this sound store called Alpine Sound, and he would give me speakers and shit for super cheap, and then I would go and resell them to people around the town. I was just kind of the town or surrounding towns, and I was a speaker guy.
That is awesome. I mean, even then, though, work smarter, not harder, delegation, and resourcefulness. A lot of
Yeah.
things you still need today in just a different form
Yep.
of a teenage kid, fucking around.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. And when you look back at those times, I mean, now, everything's so digital. You mentioned like growing up, being outside, doing those things. Like I remember running around the neighborhood when cell phones didn't exist, just riding bikes, fishing, and you know doing hoodlum stuff with your friends, and you didn't have a phone, and that was normal then. But now I feel like parents wouldn't even, they would really think twice about doing that. Like I feel like that's sad to think of that most kids now probably won't have those similar experiences as much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so my dad, My dad is a logger, and so that's what he did. He logged. So we had semis that, he had all the equipment in his own company to do it. And my grandma and grandpa had a sawmill. So, he would get these big contracts and go and log all the land. And then they, a lot of times bring them right back to the sawmill. Kind of came full circle in the family. But yeah, growing up, because I raced motocross, did backcountry snowmobiling basically my entire life. And me and my best friend Chase, we'd leave at 8, right when it got light out. We'd leave it, right in the morning, and we'd go snowmobiling all day until dark. And our dads we'd tell them generally, like kind of where we were going. But they taught us that when we were, growing up on the weekends or whatever, all these places and stuff to go. And when we got old enough, 13, we would just go and leave, and we would go all day, and they would just hope we didn't get any avalanches or anything, and then we would come home. So, and my best friend has 3 kids now. I don't have any kids, but I would never let them do that. And I kind of asked him I've asked him about, how we grew up versus, kind of how he raised his kids. And, he's like, yeah, I wouldn't let them do the shit that we did either.
Yeah, it teaches you good lessons though. I feel like, yeah, it's the same way. Like you want to protect them, but not too much. Like you want to give them a little bit of rope. I don't have kids yet either, but I'm just thinking like you don't want to not let them have those experiences and like fall on their face sometimes, but at the same time, it's a different world now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you gotta, my perspective is, you gotta let them get their bumps and bruises and kind of learn on their own, right? So I don't really know any other way to go about it. You can't coddle them and have a pacifier in their mouth their entire lives. Otherwise, they're just going to grow up and not going to be able to get off the tit when they get out of high school.
Yeah, exactly. In such a digital age now, and I mean, a lot of the businesses that you run are e-com, it's, a mobile world where we're working on screens 24/7. Like, how do you balance that with, reconnecting with nature and making sure that you're kind of getting back to those roots and spending time in nature? Like, is that something you still love to do?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I have a razor. I got one of those new expeditions, the 4-seaters. So
Oh, nice.
now that football season's over, I'll have some more of my weekends back. But yeah, I like to take that up in the mountains and just ride around. And then, every day it's I make it a point. I start my days early. I get up at 4:45, 5, and then I have both of my workouts done. Meditation, reading, journaling, all done before 9 a.m. And then I start my workday. I try to stay out of the email. And if I start diving into the workday before I do all those things, 2-3 hours goes by and kind of fucks my whole day up. And then usually midday, between now and 3 o'clock, if I start getting a little bit tired, so now I just get up and I'll go for a 30 to 60 minute walk outside and listen to a podcast or something, and then that kind of wakes me up, rejuvenates me, and then I just finish work for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Have you always been a morning person like that? Like, when did that routine kind of start for you?
I used to hate mornings, and I like to sleep in if I can, but I just can't do it. So, my dad growing up, he'd wake up at 3:30 in the morning. But I've always hated it. It's been probably in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that I've really enjoyed getting up early. Because when you get up at 4:30, 5 in the morning, you're up before everybody. Really, there's not that many people that are up. So that's kind of like my time to myself, really. Where I can read and I can journal and I can, contrary to what a lot of people think, is you have your most motivation when you get up during the beginning of the day. So like, if you're struggling to work out or eat healthy or whatever, if you start your day off by just getting that, that's the hardest thing to do. Working out every day it's not an easy thing to do. And especially as if you're already not doing it, waiting till the afternoon, you talk yourself out of doing it so often, right? And, or you're working out and you're like, oh, well, I'll eat, this fucking sweet treat or whatever it is, and you kind of, because I did this, or, and in reality, it doesn't work that way. So, and some people can work out, in the afternoon. I literally did it for, majority of my adulthood is, like 6 p.m., and it's fucking rocking in there and there's people everywhere. It's a fucking nightmare. So now I like, like I got a gym at my house and I just go to a private guy that trains me in the morning. when nobody's around. So I mean, I don't know. The older that I get, I mean, I'm kind of I always used to be super extroverted. I think, you know, the older I get, I just kind of don't really fucking want to be around anybody.
Yeah, I've felt that way too. I don't know what it is. I'm 29, I'll be 30 this year, but it's weird that transition because I've always been extremely extroverted. Being around people gives me energy. It still does today. I'm in sales, so that also, yeah, it's part of the gig, right? But when you're in that environment a lot, then it is draining to a sense where like the recharge is that time to yourself. And I definitely resonate with what you said about the morning. It's either early morning if you're a busy person, or late at night that if you have a spouse or significant other, a family, that time, especially at night, is probably spent more with them. That morning time is so sacred because it creates the space for you to be proactive instead of reactive. I find like so much whenever I push it off and I don't get up super early, then I'm just reacting all day, right? Like you can plan your day out the night before, but if you get to a late start, then you're usually playing catch up. So I feel like that time is so important for you to kind of like plan everything out and be able to actually own your day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, and people have, you know, their own quirks and, you know, whatever works for them. But for me specifically, I got to get up early. I got to, you know, do the things that I like to do to kind of, you know, journal and read and do that stuff before I go work out. And then I just like to get those endorphins and a sweat going in the morning. I mean, I think it makes you set up for your day. I think you're just happier person overall. I'm not the only one that thinks that. I mean, science also sides with me. So
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned having a trainer now. And I mean, we both played football at the collegiate level. You were used to training in that kind of group setting, that group environment. You had a strength training coach, leading the workouts. Then after school, after ball, you don't have that anymore. You have a really good basis and understanding of the things to do to stay fit, but you don't have that group atmosphere, that person, that teammate yelling in your ear, or even a coach giving you workouts and those types of things. So, did you always have a trainer after that, or what has that given you to have a trainer? Has that helped you?
yeah, it has because I do so much shit that I would never do on my own. So I mean, like I have a, you know, like I said, I have a gym in my house. I don't have to do that. But for one, it helps me because I mean, if I woke up in the morning and you know I did my you know reading, journaling, stuff like that. If I didn't have to be at the gym at 6:30, I would start glancing at my email, and then you know fucking 11 o'clock would roll by, and then I'd have a call or like it's just shit that fucks up you know kind of my whole way that I want to live. For one, it holds me accountable. It makes sure that you know between 6:30 7:30 that workout is done. And then and then I come home and then I do a couple miles of cardio and then you know, I steam, meditate, and start the day. Um, for me, you know, it's just when you're doing, you know, collegiate workouts and stuff like that, like you're doing split jerks and squats and you know shit that's really hard on your body. And I love to golf, so you know I'm all about you know functional training now. So you know I've had back surgery. I had a bad lower back, like SI joints, and so it's just really helped me for my body to move better. And you know, when I was playing football, I was 200 pounds, and I'm 180 now. So I mean, it's just like now I feel actually athletic, right?
Yeah,
Versus like just a fucking big blob walking around. You know, I mean, I was strong as shit, but
yeah,
that's all really that I had.
yeah. I agree. I had, gosh, too many friends that we had a pretty militant strength coach one year that would have us getting under the bar, squatting a couple times a week, and doing heavy compound lifts, and the amount of injuries and stuff that you see in retrospect, it's like, come on, like we should have been doing more functional movement stuff, flexibility. Like 10 extra pounds is probably going to inhibit you more than help you in a lot of circumstances, even when you're playing ball. I mean, you got guys out there now, 170 pounds that are balling out. So
Yeah.
depending on the position, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I'm totally in the same camp as you now. How can I feel better? and live a better life as opposed to just being super strong and not having that mobility.
Yeah, and just like injuries. I mean, I went through this stretch of just fucking injury after injury after injury, and like even if I, just working out when I was by myself, just sheesh, low weight, high reps, and superset and everything is kind of the wave that I, went on versus, you know, heavyweight, low reps, just for the endurance factor. And I like to stay pretty lean. So yeah, I mean the functional training for me is helped my back immensely and just makes me feel better all around.
You kind of mentioned, this phase of growing up, and then you have football and you start feeling this entrepreneurial pursuit that was already in you at a young age. But I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have this moment of like, screw it, I'm going all in on something. Like there's got to be more to this. I want to do something for myself on my own, build something, create something that brings value to other people. Did you have a moment, like a light bulb moment like that for you, where you were like, you know what, I'm going in on this?
Yeah, so I actually, when I dropped out of college, because I mean the only reason I was going was to play football, and I had 3 injuries back to back to back that weren't even football related actually. One I was playing men's fast pitch softball in the summer, and a guy slid into my ankle when I was turning a double play, and just fractured in 3 places, tore the ligaments. And I mean, yeah, it was just like dangling there. I was I didn't go to I didn't go to the hospital for 10 days. My dad finally made me go. I just thought it was like a bad sprain or something. And then I get healed from that. I was hunting. We were driving home. It was dark, and my buddy was driving my truck, and we rolled it going down a pass. And he's like 6'3", 6'4", and he flew up on the dash and flew back. And when he flew back in the back seat, he hit my shoulder, fractured my collarbone in a couple places. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just I'm done with school. And so my dad, I went to the oil rigs and started doing 2 on 2 off, working on an oil rig over there, and I did that for about 6 months and just kind of networked, met some guys that, came to and from the rig, and my dad obviously was the logger, so he had all the semis and a bunch of equipment and stuff like that. And so I talked him into coming over to North Dakota, and we started an oil company. We transported crude oil from the pads to the refineries, and then did reclamation to the pads. When the rigs left, we would do reclamation, so plant seeds, build roads, kind of make it look pretty again. And I did that for 6.5 years, from North Dakota to Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas. I was in Texas for 2.5, 3 years, and then when they wanted to move the contract and us go back to Colorado, I told my dad, I was like, I'm done. And he was kind of shocked by that. We butted heads for a while about it, to be honest. And I told him I was going back to Arizona. I was going to start a meal prep company, and I was always healthy and ate clean, and prepped me and our meals for when we were gone throughout the day and shit. And I moved back to Arizona, started a meal prep company called Body Fuel, and I had a couple friends that played football for the Arizona Cardinals at the time. Started cooking some meals for the locker room and stuff, and it started off at 9 meals a week, cooking meals illegally, no permits, out of my apartment kitchen, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and I had absolutely no fucking idea what I was doing. But I could cook a clean, basic. It was nothing extraordinary. Chicken, rice, chicken, some veggies, whatever. And 10 meals a week to 29, then to 10. But grew it, got a retail location, got it up to a couple thousand meals a week. And that was just kind of, there's a point there, I was walking one day, and there was this little store, little space, I guess. It wasn't a store yet. It was a hair salon. It's like 300 square feet. And, the company was kind of growing a little bit, but definitely didn't have the money for this. And it was around spring training, 2015, I think, maybe 2015, 26, 25, 2015, I think. And I saw this little space that was for rent, and I was like, "Fuck, dude!" Something was just telling me, I gotta open up a retail store. And so I gutted the whole thing, ended up doing it, didn't have the money for it at all. I wasn't paying my own rent, actually. I was getting notices on my rent because I hadn't paid it, and I was bartending it. So I was working this job all day, and I was bartending at night, right, to try to help supplement the business. And gutted the whole thing, redid it, got the necessary permits. And that's not even where I cooked the food, by the way. Still cooked it in the apartment, and then just brought it to the coolers that was in the store. And then I had to do a bunch of shit with the city because we did, when I opened it, I did smoothies and you grab and go meals and, protein snacks and stuff like that. But in order to be able to afford that, it was spring training. And so I rented my apartment out to a baseball player here. And I think he paid me $15,000 for the month. And I was like, oh shit. Like, all right. So I paid some back rent, and it kind of came to this realization at one point when I was getting those notices of, you're about to get evicted, that I was like, all right, well, fuck it. I got this store that I can stay in. I can put my clothes in my car and I'll shower at the gym in the mornings or something, and, until I figure it out, if I get kicked out. And then, this kind of happened as, he rented it and I got some cash and kind of got out of that hole a little bit. And then, we got a normal kitchen and a chef. I got some crazy stories with that whole business. I mean, one day I was cooking meals. I won't make this story go too long, but I was cooking meals at our kitchen, 500 or 600 meals, I think I remember. And I was like 12 ounces of chicken short, right? And so I was like, fuck. And we had a pretty good system at this point of calculating exactly what you needed, because once you went and shopped to supply all the meals, and I was 12 ounces short. So I was like, fuck, all right. While the meals were cooling down in the kitchen, I was like, all right, I'll run over to Walmart real quick, grab this. And, it was a Sunday too. I'll just fire this up real quick and finish these last couple meals and, get the fuck out of here. And I go to Walmart. I get this. I park right up front, like, kind of by the sliding glass doors. Go in there, get this chicken, come out. There's a cop there. I'm like, fuck. All right, like, he's like, oh, you can't be parking here, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, no, sorry. I was just, grabbing something quick, blah, blah, blah. And turns out I had a warrant out for, I think it was speeding or something, just something stupid, right? And so he booked me to jail. Took me in, had to leave the chicken in my car. They towed the car. And I had 500 meals in the kitchen just sitting there. So I went to jail for 24 hours to get out, and it was a Sunday, I couldn't get bailed out. And the next morning when I get out, I had to go back to the store and recook all the fucking meals.
Oh my God. That's insane.
That's a place I never want to go back to, I'll tell you that.
So did you start, when you got out of the hole, did you start hiring people, or were you kind of a one-man show for a while?
Yeah, so my buddy Landon, who is one of my partners in SkyMD, he worked for me from Pure Kana too, in the CBD brand, but he's kind of been with me since, high school, really. He lived in the town like 30 miles away from me, played sports against each other. But so he helped me like all the online stuff and like, helped with like the meal order forms and all that. But he was in, so I was a one-man show, cooking, cleaning, delivering, shopping, doing all that stuff for a long time until, got the business up to going where I could afford to hire someone to, work the store a little bit. And then one of my buddies was actually a chef and hired him to help me cook. And so eventually, yeah, got some help there, and then got another retail location 10, 15 miles away from kind of where I opened the first one up. And then I got into the THC arena, and I started making cannabis products. I actually was living in California because I'd fly back and forth from Arizona to California. And I started, my buddy was in the THC side of the business, and I always struggled to sleep. And he's like, try these gummies or whatever. And they help me sleep. So I kind of just really started getting into that. We're making cannabis products. The company was called Cushly, so we do gummies, vape pens, flour. But the big thing was, made really good gummies, and people loved those. And Kushly was originally going to be a cannabis delivery platform, just like Uber Eats. I spent a year building that, and then realized I was going to launch it in California, and then just realized all the different municipalities are this was 8 years ago now, right? So way before its time, and kind of where I saw it going. But it would be okay to deliver it in this area, but not okay 3 blocks down the road. And so it's just like, and that's that type of business is to make money in it. You got to have a lot of deliveries to be able to make it work. So I pivoted to cannabis products, and then I kind of looked in the landscape of just the THC side of things. I saw that CBD was really coming on, and you could ship it nationwide. And so I started PureKana with $18,000, and then we grew it to 40 million in revenue in the first 30 months.
Yeah, that's a journey, man. I mean, when you're launching PureKana, like at that time, given that it was 5, 6, 7 years before it really started to become more mainstream, that's innovative and disruptive. And when you do those things, there's a lot of roadblocks that occur. Like, what was it like launching that and kind of dealing with some of those, I would say, almost taboo or restrictive, things that you had to get around?
Yeah, so I mean, legality wise, not so much. I mean, for me, it was more along the lines of like stuff with, everybody in my family is like loggers, blue collar workers, working in the oil field, whatever, right? So they didn't they don't understand this world really at all. Actually, not really. They just don't fucking understand it. They understand, waking up, fucking something's broke. All right, I gotta fix it, whatever. And so they don't, that I kind of went through a little, mental struggle there for a while. Cause like, my friends back home, like even my best friend growing up, like, was like, oh, I just don't think I can be friends with you anymore. This path that you're going on and this and that. Like thinking that I'm like a drug dealer, bro.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whatever. So I just kind of kept going. And obviously, once they are a little more educated on it, they look a little stupid now. But I just kept going. I just kind of kept my nose down and kept building it. And it was a little weird for a while. My dad and my dad's, I talk to him all the time, right? And we spend so much time together, business partners. And so our relationship got a little rocky there for a little bit. And, like when I left, and then, I'm starting to do all these other things. And then now I'm a drug dealer. And, like it's just, it was kind of a little weird period of time there. But, after they got a little bit more educated on exactly what I was doing, I was actually helping people, with epilepsy and cancer and chemo and, uh, not, I guess, a drug dealer of some
Not
sort,
dealing
but,
drugs,
yeah,
some sort,
yeah,
some sort of a drug dealer that's helping people.
right.
What was the like, did you, because obviously you were early on to this, right? Like, this is a major industry. You were an early adopter. Like, what did you see in the industry? Or like, was there a point where you were like, okay, there's something here that can really have potential to grow and help people? Was there ever that moment when everyone else was doubting you that you had something that you were holding on to that you really believed it would be successful?
Yeah, I mean, so for some reason, for me, I've never been just a straight focused, and this is kind of, some people would say, a con of mine, but I've never been able to just focus on specifically one brand and one thing. I've always had multiple things going on. So, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's how my mind works. Like, I'm working on this brand, and then, oh, yeah, and then I hop and I'm, doing stuff on this. It could be a blessing and a curse, I guess. But, you know, when I was starting it, I didn't really have any idea, but I knew that there was a possibility that it could be really big. And the trends of just the search volume and things of that nature for CBD, and I could ship it across state lines legally, and the margins were unbelievable. I mean, like I sold this 1,000 milligram tincture for, and I was like the Rolls Royce of CBD too. Like I was the most expensive brand out there. And, I charged $149 for that tincture and I made it for 15.
That's amazing profit margins. There's something to be said for that though. Like when people are looking at a product, the last thing you want to be is commoditized race to the bottom on pricing because then the brand's not as solid. Like and that's a psychological barrier I feel like a lot of people have to get over when they're building something, especially when it's early on. Like, should I charge this much for the product? Like, what did you learn from doing that and kind of the clientele that you then attracted by building a brand that way?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing that I'd like to do with my brands is I'm in the process of like SkyMD doing it as well as so I positioned Purcana as the cool brand, right? So it was more expensive than anything else out there, but also in return with that, at one point I had half of the UFC roster as my athletes, and got to create great relationships with like Bones Jones is one of my good friends. That guy's an absolute legend.
Legend.
One of the biggest sweethearts. That he's very misunderstood by the media, but very, very good guy. I got a funny story about him too, actually. But I signed the whole, making it kind of the cool brand and bringing on a bunch of UFC fighters, and people want to take product that that they were taking. When I went to go sign Bones, I had to fly to Albuquerque because that's where he lives. He likes to stay away from the chaos, and it's kind of where he's from. But I met him at this little I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like a where you live?
Nashville.
Nashville. Okay, so it's almost like a super nice. It's like a family diner kind of, but it's like a Denny's where there's like there's a bar, there's a restaurant. Everybody knows him. Walk in, hi John. You can't tell that was the spot where we went, and so we're just sitting there bullshitting. Me, my camera guy, and him, and one of his friends. And so we're just kind of bullshitting back and forth there. And he's like, all right, well, you want me to sign this deal or what? I said, yeah. He's like, all right, come with me. And I was like, where the fuck's he bringing me in this diner? And brings me to the bar and makes me take 2 double shots of Jose Cuervo back to back with him. And then we went and trained for 2 hours.
That's epic.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. But yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's going to try to kill me.
How was the training session?
I sweated it out pretty quick, I'll tell you that. Yeah, I mean, it didn't even faze him.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a totally different level of training from a cardiovascular perspective for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you even get in the room in the first place? Like, was there a connection that you leveraged, or like, how did you get at the table?
Yeah, so I think I was representing some of his agents, other fighters, and then he linked me with them, and then him and I just kind of started talking, became friends, and I mean, I was Sugar Sean O'Malley's. I mean, he's from Montana, so I mean, we kind of knew each other a little bit, but I was the first deal that he ever signed. But yeah, it's just my goal is to try to make it a cool brand that had great products and help people.
So you hyperscale this thing to 35 million in revenue in 40 months. What are some of the growing pains to do that quick, to basically scale a company that quick in that little of time? Like, what were some of the biggest hurdles that you had to get over?
For one, processing companies holding money. I got my name put on a match list for.
Oh, you're good.
You can edit that out. My girlfriend's getting me shut the fuck up.
You're good.
So I got my name put on a match list. So when we were scaling it, we obviously were making a lot of revenue, but we were having to purchase inventory super fast, right? And I'll never forget, auth.net was holding like 75,000 or something, and we needed to place an inventory order because we were like getting sold out. And so I had this other company called Body Pros that was basically going to be an app. So if you were going to go do chest, for instance, you'd go and it'd have all these videos of a bunch of chest different exercises or whatever. That was just mobile. I was going to charge $1 a day and built it all out, and then got too busy doing this other shit. But I took the processing account for that and started masking transactions to Pure. So it was looking like I was, you know, doing sales in Body Pros, but it was really coming from Pure to get that revenue coming in. So then we could, then purchase inventory. And eventually I got caught and, got put on a match list for 7 years or something. But that's what I had to do to survive, so the business didn't die. Obviously, those problems continued. I had another company that at one point they were holding 1.5 million. Same deal. Had to sue them. And yeah, it was just a complete nightmare, really. But when you're scaling, you got to do whatever it takes. And as long as it's not, jail time, and it needs to be done, and it's like a slap on the wrist, and you got to do it. You bet your ass, 10 out of 10 times I'm going to do it.
Yeah, you got to take those risks. Yeah. Oh, fast forward. I mean, you sell this thing in 2019 for almost $100 million. Like, what is that? What is that feeling like? And then what's the thought process after you sell this thing that you've built for a shit ton of cash? And you're not even 30 years old yet, and you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, like I just did that. What is that feeling like?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the moment, it's pretty cool for sure. I mean, especially coming from absolutely nothing. Like I lived in a double wide growing up, and it's not like my dad was a logger. It's not like we had cash by any means. And my dad's got three brothers and three sisters. Three brothers and three sisters. And I mean, nobody in my family, nobody around, Montana's got here or there, construction guys or something, but nobody's got like a lot of money. So, you're kind of just getting by really on, with what you got. But, it's definitely super cool. Started selling it in 2019. I think it finalized in 2020. We went public. I stepped down as CEO because I didn't want to be a public CEO. Just not something I envisioned for my life, Yeah, you're not really sure what to do, right? So you just, I kind of went through this time frame for like a couple years, really. I'm just like, you don't really have a purpose. You're just kind of like, oh, I guess I can go here, or I can do this or do that or whatever. You just got a fuckload of free time, which is almost just like kind of being, in fifth grade and during summer.
Yeah, and with unlimited resources.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it definitely a kind of a weird transition, and because I mean, I didn't really have anything else, that going on that that I was passionate about or really trying to build for. So it was definitely something that when it happens to me again, I'll do things a lot different.
Yeah, new levels, new devils, right?
Yeah,
There's the other saying, idle time is the devil's playground. So like when you're sitting there and you have this euphoric moment of building something and then selling it, it almost feels like a what's next moment, right? Like was there that for you, or like was it okay, now I'm going to enjoy this for X
yeah. I
amount
mean,
of
I was
time?
I was single, man. So I was
Yeah.
single, PJs, parties, buddies. Come on, like yeah, that's kind of what I did. Had a bunch of fun, but that stuff gets old too. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then just me being me. I mean, it's not like, I mean, I know how to spend money is a thing, right? So I mean, it's all great, but I could spend it all pretty quickly. So, that's not the end all be all for me, obviously, as I'm building this other stuff. But I think it's just something for me is, like I'm just it's kind of wired in me that, I'm a builder. I like to, things come from my head to being a product, to, people using it, to talking about it, to enjoying it, to, helping people is, there's some crazy self-satisfaction that, kind of comes from your soul.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're building Sky MD now, and as we've talked, you've built multiple brands across multiple industries. Is there kind of a common formula now at this point that maybe you come back to when you have an idea of like, hey, this is maybe something I want to pursue? Like, are you looking into, well, does this fit? Does that fit? And then once you get to that point of it's a yes or a no, like, what's the first kind of steps that you're taking to really get something off the ground to do a MVP per se, like a minimum viable product of like, is this a good idea? Or do you kind of just go head first?
Uh, well, I used to definitely just go head first. Um, and kind of not really think about, repercussions and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, I think for me now, I mean, I definitely am way more strategic about the landscape of, whatever the product is, and kind of do a lot more research around it before I, get involved in doing it. Because the older I get, you know, I value my time a lot more now than obviously even 5 years ago. The things that I'm doing, I want to be able to do them to create good products that help people. I acquired this brand, this other brand in end of December, November last year. These guys approached me on social media actually. The guy owns a there's only a couple competitors out there, and this first month, January was the first month since I really took it over. I had to rebuild the website. They had no email flows going up. They had 800 back orders, and the guy was actually ironically from the oil field. That just an old guy, but a smart dude that kind of created this product for glass protection for like RVs, UTVs, heavy machinery, stuff like that. It's a very unique opportunity because there's minimal competition, right? And you don't really get that. That was kind of how it was on the early days of CBD for me too. Like I was one of the first guys to start a CBD brand. So, being able to become like a pioneer of the CBD industry was, being one of the first guys to do it, which was obviously super cool. That really hasn't, I don't really think too much of into that, but one day I'll probably look back and be like, ah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely in the CBD space. Sounds like this new venture for sure, kind of a first mover. But SkyMD, I mean, there's a lot of products, right? There's a lot of products out there that are electrolyte products or sports drink slash products, right? So what did you see in those products that you were like, there's something better here that I can fill the gap for?
Yeah, so for SkyMD, me and my two buddies, Stefan and Landon, we were, during COVID, just golfing a lot, out in the sun, working out, and we were drinking Drip Up Liquid IV and thinking that it was good for you, right? Like, oh, this is what I should be doing. And kind of diving into the products a little bit more, we ended up reverse engineering at that time every competitor that was in the space, and we figured out that all those products are either 70% sugar or 90% salt with no nutritional value whatsoever. So we're like, all right, we can create a far superior product. And now, originally, we didn't have the doctors involved, but I mean, yeah, originally we didn't. We do now, but we wanted to create one that was super high and obviously your electrolytes with minimum sugar and also a bunch of vitamins and minerals. So it's like ours is essentially you get, your 1,300 milligrams of electrolytes, 12 vitamins and minerals, and 92 trace minerals. So it's almost like taking a multivitamin plus your electrolytes. So it's almost like a two-in-one product, right? And then, we have energy hydration, sleep hydration, greens hydration. There's not even a product out there that you can buy that has 1,300 milligrams, over 1,000 milligrams of electrolytes, and the amount of superfoods, pre-probiotics, and digestive enzymes that we have in our greens product. That's a one-of-one product. Nobody's even made it besides us. And then we got, doctors involved and food scientists and just kind of really coming up with a superior product. And, we have over 500 doctors that recommend our products to their patients now. And, that list is continuing to grow. Having a bunch of, high tier athletes. We have a bunch of athletes too that, can't come out and really say they take it, but, that are definitely in our corner. And we have Informed Sport as well. So we're the only electrolyte brand to have Informed Sport. What we say we actually have in our products, we actually do have in our products. Versus, some of these other brands, there's, like LMNT just got busted for having 400 times more maltodextrin in their products than they're supposed to have. So those are things that, if somebody wants to send our products to a lab, they're going to find out that, you know, we have exactly what we say we do that's on the label. Our goal, my goal, you know, our goal, you know, for the entire company is to be the most trusted electrolyte brand out there. And, you know, we do a bunch with first responders, police, border patrol, SWAT. And so, I mean, if the product's good enough for, you know, those guys to be taking it, Nancy, that's, you know, 55 in Des Moines, Iowa, it's going to be good for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a trend of like, you know, you really connecting with the community and the consumers and then the right people to help promote the brand, right? And this e-com space, D2C space with Amazon, TikTok shop, Shopify e-commerce, right? Like this is definitely something that started to continue to grow and I think will continue to grow. What do you see when you're looking at some of these brands as what they're doing, like what they're doing wrong in this e-com D2C space? What do you see the most that you're like, this is all backwards?
Yeah, well, I mean, so, you know, one thing that is like obviously, you know, I mean, I have a lot of experience in, you know, building things, but one thing that is just absolutely crazy that's going on right now is everything is moving 50 times faster than it was like 5 years ago, even. Right? So, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a new application or if it's, you know, AI or, you know, whatever it is. So, I mean, I mean, I pride myself on trying to continue to stay up with like all of the top, you know, software and things that can actually help us grow and build while keeping the, you know, the payroll and stuff down and staying lean. But I mean, when I was, you know, in the CBD side of things, like there's just so much shit that, you know, is going on and it's I don't call it it's like a distraction, but it's not at the same time. So you really got to like figure out how you kind of want to weigh, you know, how far down rabbit holes and stuff that you actually want to go on to, you know,
Yeah.
versus actually what's moving the needle, right? So, I mean, I think that there's so much information that is coming at people, especially right now, that they're learning a lot of stuff and, you know, about things that can help their business, and then they'll see something else, and then so they're trying to watch like all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, you're not taking any action is really what's holding you back. So, you know, I think that the biggest thing is, you know, it's very easily in today's day and age to get distracted, you know, and I obviously, I even do it too. I mean, I'm really hard on myself, but like I don't scroll on Instagram or anything like that, but I love to be on X and like I scroll, cause I learn a lot of shit on there too, right? Like just from guys I follow or whatever. But, um, you know, if I'm scrolling on there for, even if it's like, you know, 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, dude, get the fuck off your phone. Like do something, right? So, I think just being very self-aware on kind of really what you're paying attention to and, you know, kind of your goals of really where you're trying to go to make those actions or those goals.
Yeah, shiny object syndrome
Yeah.
for sure. And it's like you said, there's more resources than ever available to us now, and there's also more distractions than ever. So if you're someone who can sift through that and put your head down and actually do the shit that matters with all the resources that are available, then you can be ahead of most people that'll get distracted on every corner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, everybody really wants to complicate business and how it works and, you know, AI and UGC and, you know, paid media and all this shit, right? But business is and will always be that grows the business the faster is one thing, and it's word of mouth. If if you really genuinely take care of the customers that you do have, and you know that customer gives you a referral, and then that customer gives you one, it's just you know, it's a merry-go-round that you know that's never ending, and that's the fastest way to grow a business.
When you mentioned UGC, and you've kind of had like your own organic grassroots way of like influencing and influencers and like big names repping your brands in almost the reverse way, right? Through that organic reach. Like how did you start cultivating some of those relationships and getting in some of those rooms to where when you do have these opportunities, you have not only friends, but like people who have audience that can help grow your brand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, one thing that's super unfortunate right now is, I mean, everybody has these insane price tags. They think that they're worth a lot more than they actually really are. It's either you pay them or you don't. I kind of see the landscape of that coming down quite a bit. Versus, it's such a different landscape now than it was. The professional athletes, they've always had their agents and stuff like that, right? But now you have like these kids that are in college want $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is. And it's like, bro, I'm not paying you that. What are you talking about? And so you never used to have that before. So it was almost like, not, I wouldn't say taken advantage of, but like you could get a lot more from people because that wasn't the thing. Like you'd obviously still compensate them for obviously what it is, but I mean, even you'd go out and reach to these UGC creators and they want $1,000, $2,500, $5,000 for like a 30-second video that took them fucking 15 minutes to make. It's like, yeah, this just isn't gonna pencil for me. You know what I mean? So you got to really kind of pick your battles on really strategically on kind of what you're doing there. I see the whole entire landscapes kind of. I think the UGC creators will kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Obviously TikTok Shop, there's starting to be a big wave of brands doing giveaways, right? So they kind of get people to live and breathe these giveaways, and they'll have these different tiers of prizes essentially that you can earn. Like if you do $15,000 in sales, we'll give you a $5,000 bonus, or if all the way up to like $1 million, we'll buy you a Lambo, shit like that. I mean, that's going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is just fucking crazy to think about. But it's happening. I mean, I think, I think the pricing for UGC stuff kind of comes down, and then, the next, not really the next, but it's end of this year, you probably start seeing a lot more. Next year is going to be e-commerce live shopping. So you're just going to be somebody just like you and I are sitting here right now, just grabbing a product, talking about it, doing all the USPs, selling it, 10, 15, 20-second pitch, moving on, grabbing the next product. That's
Yeah,
where it's heading.
that's kind of already happening in some other retail spaces, like
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing this stuff.
luxury goods and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've been doing live shopping in China for a long time. I mean, that stuff's been going on for forever. But it's starting to migrate over to the U.S. finally.
You mentioned golf earlier, and you loving to golf. I think we have that in common.
It's all I want to do.
The bow, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of similarities here. The injuries, I tore my ACL twice. Once playing pickup basketball right before I went to college, which I was like, oh man. I had just signed my letter, playing pickup basketball 3-on-3 for like a $50 quick trip gift card or something. And the competitive juices just got flowing. I tried to go up and dunk on someone, got hit in the air, came down, snapped it. I started crying right away. I was like, I know I just tore my ACL again because I'd done it before and I knew. Everyone was laughing at me like they thought I was faking or something. I'm like, no, dude, I know what I just did.
Yeah.
I just did it again. And golf was that thing, right? Like coming off the surgery, being able to play still and a competitive outlet. And now that I don't have that anymore, it's like that game that can challenge you mentally that you'll never really master, but that you can do outside, you can do with friends, you can drink while you do it, or you don't have to drink while you do it. Like there's just so many different ways to enjoy the game. Like what has golf meant to you? And like, where did that love for the game start happening?
Man, it's a love-hate, right?
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I'm absolutely obsessed about it. I mean, I have a golf club sitting right there.
I have one
Yeah.
there, right there.
I mean, I'll be on calls and I'm just doing like air swings and shit. My girl, she makes fun of me all the time. Like I'll be in the kitchen, no club, and just like, you're doing like your move and shit, right? It's a disease, really is.
It is.
But, golf to me it really kind of resembles life to me, right? So in golf, you can hit a really good shot and you can get a bad bounce and end up in a shitty spot. And you can also hit a really shitty ball and get a good bounce and end up in a great spot. But either way, no matter what you just did, you got to play the ball as it lies. And same thing with life. Good hand or bad hand dealt. However the cards are laid on the table, that's what you got to play with.
Yeah. And it all comes down to the next shot.
Yeah.
You could three putt that good bounce, and you could get up and down from the shitty lie. I agree. I mean, you can tell a lot about a person too when you're playing golf with them. You learn a lot about them in 18 holes, more than you would learn probably in a year of being an acquaintance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. How you live and deal with the ebbs and flows of in between shots is
Yeah.
you can definitely learn a lot.
Yeah, I've always thought I've never that we've built a brand with the podcast, and a lot of it's, around mindset and holistic health, and we've had doctors on and artists and athletes, and I've my love for the game has grown, and the COVID spike kind of really starting to grow the game. You're starting to see a lot of innovation in the game. The indoor league that Tiger's creating, and the whole live golf side of things, and just the growth of the game in general has been really cool to see. But have you ever thought of a golf focused supplement that helped golfers get into flow if they were someone that didn't want to drink on the course, right? You have like that sweet spot of, like, a couple beers, I'm loose, but I'm still kind of focused. But like someone goes on the course, they don't want to drink. I've seen like kava, kratom stuff. There's other modalities out there, but I'm always like, man, a golf specific supplement to help with that flow state would be something that would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to become legal. I'm already prepping for it, but microdosing mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I have not done that yet.
that's the wave.
That's the way, like, what, like a point, or like
Yeah,
what's
like
the sweet spot?
point 1 gram. So actually, I microdose mushrooms every single day. I have them right here. They just take point 1 gram. They're just tiny, just like CBD back in the day. Everyone thinks it's a drug, whatever, right? This shit comes from the ground, and for me, it doesn't do anything. Like it's like Adderall for me, actually. I don't even notice I don't even notice anything from them anymore. Like obviously, if you took 10 of them, you'd feel it, but
Yeah. Then your game might suffer.
for sure, or it might be better. I don't know, but like even like just a normal like work day, I take one in the morning, take one in the afternoon. I don't know. It just helps me stay focused, and I get a lot of shit done, and kind of um, think about things in a little more creative way than you normally would.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the innovation on that side too is another good outcome of the craziness that COVID was, right? Like, people started to realize that everything that you've been told is not necessarily fact, and that they should do some research on their own to realize that, there's other options out there. And the research and stuff that's been coming out around psychedelics and, psilocybin, et cetera, is really interesting in the mental health space. And I think, to your point, you're probably, again, pretty early on this, considering the trajectory and the way that cannabis was viewed and now is viewed. I think, you're going to start seeing that more with some of these other natural modalities as well.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree 100%. I mean, who knows how long it will actually be, but I mean now, I mean there's ketamine treatment centers. I mean you can go to Colorado and you can get psilocybin treatment centers and stuff that they're just strictly under doctor's care and supervision and stuff like that. But that I mean it's very proven fact that there's been a lot of studies that these people that have done, especially just with soldiers coming back from PTSD, the unreal success that they've had, by doing these treatments.
I think it's, like I said, people are opening their eyes to it and starting to be more open to trying things that are off of the beaten path per se, but in reality have been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just, were brainwashed into thinking something that wasn't true.
Yeah. Something that was lab made was more,
Yeah.
with all the list of side effects, was
Yeah.
potentially better for them than something that came from Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
You post a lot of content on mindset. Obviously, you've had a lot of success in the business space, but it all starts with mindset, in my opinion. And you had a post not too long ago that was talking about life as an infinite game, right? And how we look at death. Like when you think about death, there's a lot of different emotions that come up when people think about death. But when you think about death, what do you think about, and kind of, is that a motivating factor for you, or like what comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, so, there's finite games and there's infinite games, right? So finite games is football, basketball, where there's known players and rules, and there's a beginning and there's an end. There's a beginning and end to life too, but that's an infinite game, right? Same thing with business. There's no beginning and end to business. When you see people, oh, I won. You can't win in business, right? You can't win in life either. The majority of people, when you die, the moment you die, if you work for somebody, they're already looking for your replacement, right? And shortly after that, people stop talking about you. The longer the time goes, they stop thinking about you, and your grandkids or whatever, they're not even gonna know who you were, right? So really having that outlook in life for me is crucial, just to do the things that I want to do. Not, I'm a big proponent on, I understand everybody's, or not everybody, I understand that a lot of people have to do like 9 to 5s and stuff like that, but I can't wrap my head around on not doing something because my parents didn't like it, or friends in a circle frowned upon, when at the end of the day, when you're sitting there and you're looking at your bank account and you're you're listening to your thoughts that you have to listen to every single day, all day, that they don't. I don't know why more people don't, do things for themselves and what they actually really want to do, instead of listening to outside opinions that at the end of the day don't fucking matter.
Yeah, that's true. It feels like too, as you get older, time moves way faster.
Fast, man. It's
Dude,
crazy.
it's like you when you're younger and you're just, like you said, messing around outside, and or even in high school, or those types of things. It felt like time moved a lot slower, and then you hit a certain age and things just start happening at this rapid rate. You blink, you're like, how the hell is it already middle of the year, end of the year? How is it 5 years since I did that? Like,
Yeah.
it just, you look back at pictures like that was 10 years ago. Are you kidding me? Like those type of things happen more as you get to an older age. I feel like it just puts into perspective, like, we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, really, I mean, you don't. I mean, you think about, obviously stuff that you do every day and that's, it's miserable, or things that you don't enjoy doing or whatever. But yeah, just like you said, I mean, I, I've genuinely thought about this specific thing, and I can't even wrap my head around it because it doesn't make any sense, because I'm way more present now than I ever was back then.
Right. Right.
Like, I'm very in tune of, like, what I'm doing, and things of that nature. But it just seems like weeks, months, and years just fucking rip by, and there's no getting them back.
Yeah, that's a weird paradox I've realized too. When you get to the point where you've created enough self awareness and awareness of yourself and the world around you, like, there's things that you see that other people don't see, but at the same time, like, you struggle with other things that you didn't before, because now you're living from a more conscious state. So it brings other things into your life and into your mind that you weren't thinking of because you're on autopilot before. And like that's definitely one of them, like the idea of time and how quickly it goes. Like, you start really chewing on those types of things whenever you open your awareness more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the older I get, I want to spend more time with my parents, and when I was in my 20s, I'd barely ever go back to Montana, and just super selfish, and missing family events and things like that. So I mean, I try to go back as much as I possibly can now, but yeah, I mean, you just kind of, I posted something a while back that, for me specifically, I'm 37. My parents are, my dad's, early 60s, but, the average human, you know, dies when they're 80, right? And if your parents, being my age now, they're 60, and you get to see them 2 times a year, on average, they're only going to live 20 more years. Is 40 times enough to see them before they die? For me, that answer is no. So, kind of when you zoom out and look at the macro of, things like that that are actually straight facts and realities. You might get lucky and they might live longer. Sure, great. But, you can't really be in control of that number on the tail end of life, but you can be in control of, how many times you make the effort to go see them or hang out or do those things before that time actually comes.
Yeah, I mean, for someone that's in the middle of the hustle right now, right? Like they're trying to make something of themselves. They're trying to get that exit. They're trying to get that promotion or whatever that is for them, right? And they're so locked in and focused on that. How do they balance that ambition to still be present and realize those things that we're just talking about and enjoy the simple things in life as well?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand, the people in the go, go, go and no days off and stuff like that. But how you really tick is how well your mental health is. Present you are actually. I mean, you think you can be doing a lot of work, but are you doing the right work? Could be a bunch of busy work as well. That's really not moving the needle. So, I mean, I think you do, and I struggle with this actually, but I mean, you got to take some time and, go do a hobby or, go hang out with some friends or, go see your family. But I mean, you got to have, anybody that says that you don't need balance in your life is on a wrong path, in my opinion.
In the material sense and in the accomplishment sense, someone would look at your resume and say, man, Cody's had a lot of success, but, success is subjective, right? So what is your definition of success?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people think that, when I make $1 million, I'm going to be happy, or I make, 10 million, or I get this house, or I buy this Lambo, or whatever, right? I've done it. I've had it all. And, I was super happy when I was broke and, I've been happy when I've had money, right? But for me, the ultimate form of success for me is freedom. Freedom to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, not have to report to anybody. And, growing up, my dad had to be at, logging sites or running machinery, so shit got done. And, when I left him to start the meal prep company, my goal wasn't ever to make $1 million or to, I thought about making, obviously, a lot of money, but my goal then is the same goal that I have now, and that is to be able to work anywhere I want in the world with Wi-Fi connection.
Freedom of time, location, and money.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. For someone that's listening as we wrap up here and they're like, I love this, but I don't know where to start. Like, Cody, how do I start? Where do I begin? What is your advice to them?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you can find, a lot of people will search externally for those answers, right? I think you need to start looking for them, but I think you need to look for them internally. Once you start becoming really self-aware about and literally just sit in silence. I mean, obviously it's probably not going to happen right away, but if you do it consistently and then you start becoming more self-aware of, your thoughts, like what are you constantly thinking about? What do you enjoy doing? I mean, no matter what your hobby is or, things that you like, there's other people out there that have the exact same, interest in stuff that you do. I mean, there's fucking a girl selling farts in a jar for $500 a pop. I promise you that you can fucking do good with your interests that you have and be happy.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's a great place to end. Farts in a jar, baby. That's going to be the title of the show, Farts in a Jar. That'll get some clicks.
There we go.
Well, hey, Cody, man, thanks for coming on. It's been absolute pleasure. Where can everybody find you? Where can everybody find SkyMD? Try it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can just social medias at Cody Alt. Same thing with the YouTube channel. I'm starting to put some more content out there that I think that'll help a lot of people. SkyMD is just try skymd.com. You can use Cody at checkout. That'll save you 20% off your first order. And I'll give you a money back guarantee if you don't like it. I'll personally refund you myself.
There you go. You heard it here first. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Breathing Air podcast with Cody Alt. Y'all go check him out. Try SkyMD, and we'll catch you next week.